We are now in the basement of the courthouse, my favorite place and the place where I worked for 13 years as elections administrator for Benton County. This was originally a basement. It was never meant to be used for offices, but as the county grew and as people needed more services, we moved down here. At one time, early on, they had talked about using this space as a jail, but since it flooded every winter, and since the people of Benton County felt that the prisoners would be too smelly, they built a little jail off to the side, and that stayed until the 1820s. You can see by the ballot box over here and the voting booths over here that we are in the middle of an election. The primary election for 2020, and the offices, the door just to my right is the elections office. Down here in the basement we have the county clerk's office, and he is in charge of recording and elections. So originally when the building was built, the basalt, these big gray rocks here, the basalt came from Witham Hill, so that was very close, and the bricks were made in the Corvallis brick yard. For some reason, the sand was brought down from Washington State. I don't know why they had to have that sand, but the mortar came from Washington State. We still have an original peerless toilet for women. That's in here. And you can see the old wooden toilet with the hand plunger. We have two of those here. And when they talked about taking them out a few years ago, the Historic Committee insisted that they leave them, and so they had to replace the copper basin that's inside them. If you will look over on that wall, you'll see a little hole that's been carved into the basalt. On the other side of that hole is an open space that was closed off when the building was built. It's affectionately known as the hidden room. Nobody knows why they closed it off, but school children in particular enjoy making suggestions about what might be in the hidden room. This is where all of the elections are set up and conducted for Benton County, and of course we also handle all the national and local and district elections as well. This is an interesting old machine. It's called a crawler, and it was actually purchased by Victor Moses, who was our early county clerk, with his own funds. It's the first typewriter that Benton County had. And the really terrible thing about it is, in those days you had very large books, and you would open the books and put the typewriter on top, and then as you typed, instead of the roller on the back, which would move back and forth, the actual alphabet face would move back and forth, which meant that you had to be an extremely good typist, because you wouldn't know until you were all done whether you had typed correctly. This is a picture of the Benton County Courthouse as it originally looked. And as you can tell, it looks a bit different than it does now. Back during World War I, there was a judge, we would call them commissioners now, who thought it looked very militaristic and very threatening, and so he said, paint it as white as snow. The courthouse was painted. It's been white ever since. It's affectionately known as the White Lady, It's the most photographed courthouse in the state of Oregon, and is famous even beyond the state of Oregon because of it. You'll see the statue of Dimas right here. She is 8 feet tall, and she's made of copper and zinc. She is politically incorrect in that she has no blindfold. But the judges decided that rather than send her back, one of the judges said, "We want her to see what she's doing," and they kept her. You'll also see some of the 18 chimneys that were here. Back in those days, you had little pot-bellied stoves in each of the offices, and of course that's been updated, and the chimneys have been removed. If you look down here you'll see wagons, so you know this is a very early photograph of the courthouse. So here is the hallway, and if you look closely, you'll notice that we have basalt, and then we have brick, and then we have more basalt. It took about 5 years for me to get the answer to why we have this odd combination of building materials. But as it turns out, wherever there is basalt, there is a safe above it. And of course, safes are heavy, and so they need more strength to support them. So that's why we have the basalt in part of the area. And our county clerk, James Morales.
Hold on just for a second.
James Morales, as county clerk, is actually the supervisor for not only recording but also elections, and so he is the head elections officer for Benton County. This is also where you would apply for marriage licenses, same-sex or commitments, lots of land and titles. If you want to go for mining for gold, you would file your mine claim here. And we even have a quitclaim deed to the moon. A gentleman in the 50s filed 2 quitclaim deeds to land on the moon, so should we ever settle there, his descendants will own part of it. It's the only place in the nation that happened. Okay, I think the last place that we're going to go is into what is called the Archives Vault, and it is where all of the history books were kept. A beautiful old door, all hand painted. Because it's a historic building, whenever you go through a door, you always want to check, because there is quite often a step up and a step down involved. Second door in here. This vault has held a lot of important documents and court items over the years. What you see right now are basically the Oregon's poll book. Since we don't go to the polls and we get our ballots by mail, we're required to keep a poll book, which includes, you'll see, these are the envelopes that when a voter votes, he sends back. His signature is right there. We are required to check each and every signature. If it does not match, we have to contact the voter and find out why before we can count that ballot. The nice thing about vote by mail is if someone else went to my polling place and said, "I'm Jill Van Buren," and they let her vote, they could prosecute her, but once she voted, they could never get the ballot out of that box. In this case, the ballot doesn't come out of the envelope until we've proven that the voter it was sent to is the one who voted it. over here, these are boxes of what we call live ballots. A ballot is alive from the time that it goes out in the mail to the voter until the period of time that we're required to keep them has passed. Once that time, and we have to keep both the envelopes and the ballots, so that if anybody believes that there has been something done irregularly, we can take all of this and reconstruct the election and prove that it's been counted right. Everything's been done properly. At the end of the time, and each of these have dates on it. So these came from the primary election of 2018, and they will be destroyed on May of 2020. And they and the envelopes are all destroyed under secure conditions. The last little room is called the Archives Vault. This building, this little room contains all of the old books. Of course, they were all handwritten, and if you wanted to work in a county clerk's office, you had to have a very nice hand, which was very pretty to look at and nowadays can be very hard to read. So all of these, a lot of these are land transactions. We have adoptions, we have mortgages, direct and indirect, assessments, and we also have 5 little books that contain the registration cards for the women when they got the vote for the first time. Very historic. All of these books have been scanned, and so their records are also available at the state. But if you would like to see the original copies, you're welcome to come in and view the books themselves. Benton County Courthouse is one of the most historic courthouses in the state of Oregon. It's been saved once, and now it has to be saved again. Because it's above or very near the Corvallis earthquake fault, there is the danger of an earthquake, a future earthquake, taking this building down. The only way that we can save this building at this time is to retrofit it. I tell my tour children that this is their building, that it belongs to the people of Benton County. And thank you very much for helping take care of it. Thank you for our tour. We're always happy to show the building to anyone who wants to actually come and do a real tour when we can, once this pandemic is done. And thank you for your interest in our oldest and most well-known part of Corvallis and Benton County.